I am Stephen James Peterson, and this is the Raven Rising Podcast. So you've been hearing some conversations, or you're going to, at the time of this recording being released, that not all of the investigative report has come out yet. Let's flesh out a couple of the issues that we have discovered along the way to where we do need to definitely reevaluate the law surrounding caregivers. And what it is that a patient can only have one caregiver. You run into different issues with that. Different family structure issues can cause conflict there, especially when you have split custody issues and visitation involved. Means that one parent necessarily has to always be the one to dose with the medication. Now, depending on the titration regime, your scheduling of when you're taking in the cannabis oil for some of these pediatric patients, that necessarily creates a logistical problem that hopefully is something that's simple for people to see. To crush that down into a sentence, the caregiver restrictions are not friendly to divorced parents that have separate but joint custody and visitation times. Think about that for a moment. So it gets bigger than that, but that's just a simple example. It goes beyond that. There's a constructional error there that we necessarily need to create a structure to get past. Simply, patients should be allowed more than one caregiver. And while we allow caregivers to have more than one patient, we need to see the other side of that issue on the caregiver's side, that they can't do everything for one patient all by themselves. If we're talking about an in-home hospice worker that is with somebody all the time, that's one thing. When we get into relationships beyond that, that fact that a patient can only have one caregiver really handcuffs those two people in a way that's not necessarily beneficial to them. So we need to, as a people, address that. We're going to have in the next episode that drops, we're still exploring some of the other issues here, but this one is pertinent. I want people to understand that this is what we're looking at in the law that needs to be changed. And I don't see this as an unfair question. As a matter of fact, it actually is very reasonable for all parties concerned. And if there's any opinions against patients being able to have more than one caregiver in the North Dakota Cannabis Program, Medical Marijuana Program, I really want to hear why that is, because the perspective that I currently hold doesn't see the sense and the restriction there. Plainly, bluntly. And maybe I'm being too analog about it and binary. That's fair. But I'm also looking at this as a patient's rights side, to where if in the instance of my being a patient, and I'm drawing from what I'm seeing from other patients in the group, is that there are instances where we necessarily need more than one caregiver. When we look at especially end-of-life patients who are at the level of needing team care, we really need to be cognizant of that and allow that other caregiver time to be able to get away. That's for prevention of burnout. That's for mental well-being. That's for processing of emotions. This is a large encompassing social wellness aspect for the caregiver and the patient here. And also to allow for non-conventional situations, something that falls out of what would be considered your nuclear family. The typical family structure that we saw here in the United States as described prior to what the reality is on the ground of social relationships here in this country and state currently. So with that being said, I'm going to let this one resonate with you for a while so that you understand some of the perspectives that I'm pursuing here in addressing the North Dakota Medical Marijuana program. And with that, I thank you for taking the time to hear me today. Hey everybody, this is Stephen James Peterson with the Raven Rising Podcast. I ask you to please join us this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Time when our next episode drops. It's part 2 of our investigative series into the North Dakota Medical Marijuana program and addressing stakeholder concerns here in the state of North Dakota, which is a subject that's something that's extremely important to me, means a lot to me, and something that I take very serious. So I ask you to join me on Wednesday at 7 p.m. here on the podcast to hear episode 2 of our investigative report. Thank you.